We're about to be joined by Leo Golden. He is the Vice President of Major Projects for Enbridge Energy Management, LLC, based in Calgary. And, of course, we now know of a protest of a different sort. Unlike Uptown, we now have an uprising up around Park Rapids where workers are trying to complete the Line 3. Hello, Leo Golden.
Hello, Joe.
Are we reaching you in Calgary?
I'm actually up in Bemidji right now.
Really? You have to be on. Are you there because of what's happening, or would you be there anyway?
I would be here anyway. So I travel around a fair bit, but I sure like to get out to the field and meet with all those great workers that are out there building the pipeline right now and the communities. So I spend about half my time here.
How far is it from completion?
We're approaching. We're north of 60% complete on the pipeline itself now, on the pipe portion of it, and on the facilities. You know, the part of what I'm sure we're going to talk about today. We're closer to 75% complete.
When that pipeline was originally built in the 60s, I know that's before your time, but were there protests back then?
No, there weren't protests back then. No, this is a part of what everyone understood to be infrastructure, just critical to delivering that energy that everybody needs. It was a part of building the nation. Yeah.
What has happened? We all have our ideas, but what in God's name has happened in the intervening 50 years?
That's a really good question. I'm sure something that's beyond me to tell your listeners about. But the one thing I can say is that I believe pipelines have become a symbol in a battle that's about something more than pipelines.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think that there's a lack of understanding of just how important this infrastructure is to sustaining the lives that we all enjoy. The Line 3 pipeline in particular is a piece of existing infrastructure that's delivering almost 400,000 barrels a day of crude oil today. That's oil that's used in all parts of our economy, and frankly, just about everybody in the region uses the products and depends on the products that it delivers. I think some people have maybe lost sight of that connection.
I think people have lost sight that what is being protested is exactly the lives we all enjoy. That's my sad conclusion, and it's happening in a variety of dynamics, not just at pipelines, but you're probably aware of the disruptions in Minneapolis, for example. But among the many things these protesters don't understand is pipelines are safer than trains.
Yes, they are. And that's something that certainly is on the record through our evidentiary process and hearing process at the Public Utilities Commission. It is by far the safest way to transport crude oil.
And any rational person would say to themselves, well, how did these protesters get there, including Jane Fonda? I presume she didn't walk there. She probably flew into the Twin Cities, or maybe she flew into Bemidji, and every protester there didn't walk there. That seems to be beyond them. And I've seen pictures of the damaged equipment. It's just terrible.
Yeah, it's certainly disheartening. There's no question. And, in the lead up to that, it's hard to describe without seeing some of the images, but there was a point where our workforce thought they were actually going to be barricaded into this contained site. And then it became clear that they were actually going to be overrun and occupied. And I'm thankful that they were all able to get out safely. We had an evacuation plan in place, and they followed that, and we got all our people out and had them accounted for as quickly as possible. But certainly, once that mob was inside, they undertook a very active program of damage and vandalism.
Where exactly are we talking about? Near Park Rapids?
We are. It's north of Park Rapids. I've lost a number of miles in my head right now, but it's a pump station for us called the Two Inlets Pump Station, just north of Park Rapids.
And has that been compromised recently?
We are, following the the actions on Monday and early Tuesday, we are out there now actually in implementing a verification program. So, this is critical infrastructure. It's complex and highly technical infrastructure, and we have to go out and verify that there is no damage to any of that equipment or the associated electronics and control systems. Because the safe operation depends on that. So at this point, we haven't found significant damage to some of or to most of that equipment, but it's something that we can't take any chances on.
I'll read you a paragraph from today's St. Paul Pioneer Press. 2 protesters spent the night, meaning last night apparently, locked down in a boat, blocking the entrance to one construction site, while 2 others locked themselves underneath the boat, tucked in behind duffel bags, beach chairs, water bottles, and clothing. A Hubbard County Sheriff's deputy and a handful of private security guards stood by in the morning, but other law enforcement officers arrived as authorities went to work cutting the protesters free. Do you have enough law enforcement?
Well, it's certainly something that came up during our PUC action or PUC hearing. We've heard many protesters refer to this as direct action. I certainly don't see it that way. I don't believe the communities see it that way. This is beyond that by any measure. This is vandalism. This is violent entry into a workspace, chasing off workers, not just our primary contractor, Michaels, but also a local tribal contractor, Gordon Construction, along with the destruction of much of the equipment that was in there. And it's almost every single tire has been slashed. Almost, wow. There's significant damage to excavators. This is some pretty significant damage to the site. Yeah.
Well, I would hope that you can tell me that arrests are being made as soon as possible.
Yes, yes, there was. And going back to your earlier question about police. I do believe that a part of the tactic here is to overwhelm local police forces. It's, in my view, unconscionable to distract and redirect all of those critical community resources. So law enforcement was brought in from other areas to support local law enforcement in the arrest of many of those protesters who were refusing to leave. So I believe the final number was up or close to 200 arrests at the end of the day.
Do you harbor any fear? A 2-part question. Do you harbor any fear that the line won't be completed? And is the line operating now at a diminished capacity, I would imagine?
Yeah, this line has to be completed. Going back to my earlier comment, Minnesota and the surrounding areas depend on the energy today delivered by this pipeline. Mm-hmm. We've been very clear that the regulatory process has confirmed the existing pipeline needs to be replaced. PHMSA, our national regulator, back under President Obama's administration, requested that we replace this pipeline. Mm-hmm. That's what we're under. So do I harbor fears that it won't be replaced? It must be replaced.
Yeah.
So no, I don't. I do harbor fears that the escalating action of a small portion of society, this protest movement, is going to cause some physical harm. We've seen escalating actions that could result in personal safety issues.
How many protesters do you think are present? In the hundreds?
It's more than hundreds. I wasn't out there on Monday to witness this. We've heard reports of over 1,000, but certainly those numbers are going down now. Mm-hmm. Yeah, people are going back to their home states.
When is the scheduled completion date?
We are scheduled to be in service in Q4. So, following a spring shutdown for road restrictions and environmental permit conditions, we have been ramping back up. We have probably close to 3,000 of our workforce is back in the region now, actively constructing the pipeline, and a lot of that work is going to wrap up in the next few months.
How many of the employees are from surrounding communities in Minnesota. In other words, this is a job provider for a lot of these towns, isn't it?
Oh, for sure. Most of them are local.
Really? Yes. Including a Native American contract with an excavation firm.
Oh, absolutely. And multiple Native contractors, actually. This has been a big part of our effort here. We made a commitment during our hearing to spend at least $100 million with tribal-owned businesses and through tribal employment. And, we're way above that now, closer. We're approaching $300 million. Yeah.
Kenny?
Thanks for joining us, Leo. From what I understand, the existing pipelines do run through the Leech Lake Reservation, but the Line 3, which takes a hard right at the Clearbrook Terminal, does not run through any Native American lands, correct? It runs down to Park Rapids, then hangs a left, and runs over north of Mille Lacs, and then hooks up again with the existing pipelines, right?
It does, but just one minor correction. It does cross the Fond du Lac Reservation.
Oh, it does. Okay.
It does.
Okay.
And, what I do like to point out is we've made many changes to our project, well over 300 changes to the project, as a result of community consultation and engagement that we've undertaken since 2014. And I'd like to point out, the comment you just made about crossing reservations.
Yeah.
We don't cross Leech Lake today because that's what they wanted.
Right.
We do cross Fond du Lac because that's what they wanted.
Yeah, they agreed to this, which is so stunning. And I got to tell you, Leo, I was in the area about a month ago now, and I was out for a drive, and I was headed south towards Lake Mille Lacs, and boom, I came upon the construction on a Saturday. And then I doubled back, and I followed the line west, where I crossed the line many, many times. And the one thing that struck me was I can't imagine how many people you have employed. Do you have a number on how many employees are there? Because this is the biggest construction project I've ever seen. I was blown away.
Yeah, there is a lot of activity out there. And at peak, we were about 5,400 people.
Goodness.
In the field.
Wow. Yeah.
Leo, I really, really am heartened by your confidence in your insistence that it's not a matter of if this gets completed, it must be completed.
Absolutely. And I also go back to we have engaged in a very meaningful way with essentially every stakeholder, and we have listened and we have made changes. And we see the results of that, the impacts of that today as we continue to enjoy very strong support in the communities that we're working in.
Well, best of luck, sir. I'm glad we're all in what?
Yeah, we're all in support.
Yeah.
Yeah. One more thing, though, Such, and I know you already covered this, but I wanted to reiterate. This doesn't, to me, seem to be about the water, the pipeline itself. This is about oil, isn't it? I mean, they're couching it in other terms, but this is simply about the use of oil, right?
That's how I see it.
Yeah.
I can't really speak for what their motivations are. I mentioned earlier, I do believe that pipelines have become more of a symbol in bigger discussions. Yes.
Yep.
I have just one quick question, Mr. Golden. Which lucky employee got to fly the helicopter the other day?
He did think he enjoyed himself.
Oh, that was so sweet watching that video.
You don't have to answer
Yeah,
that.
you don't have to answer that. I was just kidding.
Might have been Leo.
Yeah, it might have been Leo.
That was actually
not
law
a
enforcement flying that. Yeah.
Thanks, Leo.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, best of luck. Best of luck. Thank you. Leo Golden, who is VP of Major Projects Enbridge Energy Management, LLC.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Who in their right mind wouldn't want a brand new pipe to replace the old, deteriorating, worn out, soon to be obsolete pipe?
It's going to be safer. It's going to be more efficient, and it's got a different route. What do you want?
And you all know the answer to that question.
Tell us.
Right. No, we know the answer. This isn't about safety. Yeah. This isn't about clean water. This isn't about Native Americans. This is about oil.
This is about the demonization of petroleum.
Yep. It's that simple.
And these hypocrites all drove there, probably in vehicles that could be better attended and then not be so energy inefficient. Jane Fonda, who obviously has nothing to do and is desperate for some attention, she shows up. Well, she sure as hell didn't walk up or bicycle there. This has to do with what's been coming out of the failed academy for years. This is an outgrowth of an entitlement dynamic that believes that America is a foul place that's ruining the environment, and we all know the answers to this.
I saw a post in regards to this where Biden, was vehemently opposed to the Line 3, and then followed that up with, in that same press conference, that he wants plexiglass in every single, place in America.
Plexiglass.
Hey, Joe, do you know where plexiglass comes from?
I believe I do.
Interesting.
The North Face clothing people are taking a very public anti-petroleum stand, and every bit of their catalog is full of clothing that requires petroleum.
Yep.
This is just a hypocrisy, but we thought we had a chance to talk to Leo, and I'm glad we did, because he
was great.
We're just visiting a protest site of another type here.
Yes, we got many to choose from these days.
And I think that there is really little difference between the people protesting Line 3 and the people marching on Lake Street in Uptown.
They're all misguided.
There's very little difference. Facts are not important to them.
Do you think that all of the protesters at Line 3 also had a cell phone on them?
Probably.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
It's not about the environment.
No.
If it was about the environment, they would be saying a rosary for these people.
Well, if you look at some of the photos that were sent to us,
Right, I did.
by our source,
Yeah.
all these people that care about the environment, did you see the garbage they all left behind?
It's just trashed.
Chris, I think you were referring to Biden making comments about the Keystone pipe, because
is that what I'm saying? I apologize.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because he has not commented on Line 3, and the Line 3 opponents, they've been calling for him to rescind the Army Corps permit for the pipeline. But
Yeah,
so
you're right.
far,
You're right.
he hasn't said anything about that. But he did, in fact, I believe, rescind something for the Keystone. Did he not? A border crossing or something?
Yes.
John, do you know?
I think so, yes.